Hello, this is a general Holy Paladin healing guide. My name is Aaliyah. This guide is accurate as of patch 3.3.2, but may become outdated as new patches and expansions are released. In this guide, we'll cover the breadth of the basic aspects of Holy Paladin healing. We will look at talent choices for Holy Paladins, discussing the must-have and the optional talents that can be taken in each tree. Following our discussion of talents, we'll move on to the topic of Holy Paladin spells. While many healers talk about one spam spell which is used most often, there are numerous spells in the Holy Paladin's toolkit, and understanding them is a major key that separates good Holy Paladins from bad ones. Next we'll talk about stats, gemming, and enchanting for Holy Paladins. We'll discuss why Interlock is such an important stat for Paladins, and why certain Paladins will go after spell power, while others do not. Finally, I will finish up with a brief mention of addons and macros which will be useful to you in your role as a healer. Also look for a video on soloing as a Holy Paladin, as I will try to dispel the awful notion that Holy Paladins are terrible soloers. First, let's talk about spells. I'll try to cover spells in three basic groups: heals, mitigation tools, and mana management. Using spells properly is the key to what separates good and bad Holy Paladins. A good Holy Paladin knows that there is much more to healing than simply spamming one spell. First, we'll be getting into healing spells. A Holy Paladin's heals consist of Flash of Light, Holy Light, Holy Shock, Lay on Hands, and Beacon of Light. Flash of Light is a quick, mana-efficient spell, which the Holy Paladin can spam with almost no noticeable effect on their mana pool. This makes it an ideal heal for situations in which the damage is not heavy and you want to conserve mana. It also helps Holy Paladins deal with subtle amounts of raid damage, as they can fire off spells at 1 per second in proper gear levels. Holy Light is a powerful, long, and mana-consuming spell, which Holy Paladin will have difficulty spamming. This is why most Holy Paladins choose to gear into that for Holy Light spamming, as the current raid environment consists of many encounters with heavy and tank and raid damage, and using Flash of Light alone simply won't be enough. Most Paladins want the capability to spam Holy Light for a time. With proper talents, haste and gear, and judging, a Holy Paladin can get down to as little as 1.3 seconds for a Holy Light, which is actually fairly quick and makes it quite viable to raid heal in heavy raid damage situations. There's a debate currently between what's known as the Flash of Light and Holy Light styles of healing and setting up. As I just mentioned, most Holy Paladins choose to set up for Holy Light styles of healing. This doesn't mean that you never use Flash of Light. In fact, a good Holy Paladin will use Flash of Light quite often, so long as damage isn't heavy. There's no reason to waste your mana on a Holy Light, which will mostly result in a large overheal and ends up wasting mana. Flash of Light geared Paladins will still use Holy Light too, in situations where Flash of Light cannot keep up. But because they aren't geared to spam Holy Light, the tactic will leave them drained of mana fairly quickly. For new and gearing Paladins, I would recommend the Holy Light style, simply because it's the most straightforward, and the one which allows the most flexibility. This is not to say the Flash of Light style of healing is bad, but it's a niche style of healing which is typically used by people with plenty of experience and their own reasons for converting to it. If you need to switch to a Flash of Light style, you will know that you need to switch. Otherwise, I suggest a Holy Light style of healing and gearing. Holy Shock is a medium, instant heal, but it's terribly inefficient with its use of mana. The spell is reserved mostly for emergency situations, such as when someone dips below 10% health and needs to be brought up quickly. When combined with an infusion of light proc, it can become a great lifesaver tool, but you shouldn't find it among your top heals for any fight. Lay on Hands is a unique heal, with its power being based off of your total health and costing no mana. In fact, with the right glyphs, it can restore mana to you as it restores mana to its target. The catch is that it's on a 20-minute cooldown. This can be reduced to 11 minutes through talents and glyphs, but it will still generally only be available once per encounter. With points and improved Lay on Hands, this spell also provides a nifty mitigation buff, which makes it great for tanks who have just taken spike damage. Beacon of Light is a buff gained from talents that can be placed on a target for 60 seconds and is refreshable. All direct healing done by you will be transferred to your beacon target. In heavy damage fights, this can result in almost doubling your healing. Unless you're healing someone who's about to die, if you don't toss them a heal, your priority should be 100% uptime on Beacon of Light. I'll explain this spell further in the talent section. For mitigation spells, Holy Paladins have a lot of tools. Spells such as Hand of Protection are great for raid members who suddenly pull aggro, as it reduces all damage taken. Hand of Sacrifice can be used on someone who's about to take a lot of damage and transfer it to you. This is especially useful if you have yourself beacon, such as in Phase 3 of Sindragosa. Another important tool is Sacred Shield, a spell which is often, but not always, placed on your beacon target. It absorbs up to 500 damage, scaled upwards to spell power, but cannot be gained more than once every 6 seconds, and is a chance on hit. Taking the Divine Guardian talent will increase its length to 60 seconds, from 30. I wouldn't want to forget Cleanse either. One needs to be a smart cleanser. That means don't cleanse if you're not supposed to, as some effects should not be cleansed, or shouldn't be cleansed right away, such as the debuffs on Rot Face, or in the new Hallian encounter. Aside from these sorts of debuffs though, cleansing various diseases and poisons and magic effects is a great way to stop damage before it happens, or help free a member from some sort of ability which might otherwise incapacitate them. Good Holy Paladins are smart cleansers and recognize the value of cleanse in contributing to the success of a raid. Hand of Freedom is a great situational tool, which can free a raid member from a sticky situation. Literally. It allows the target to move freely through snare effects, which is great for kiting tanks on rot face who might have to run through slime, and in various other scenarios where a raid member needs to be somewhere quick, but has a debuff or snare stopping them from getting there quickly. Two of your most powerful mitigation tools come from talents. These are Aura Mastery and Divine Guardian. Aura Mastery is covered quite thoroughly in the talent section. Divine Guardian lasts 6 seconds and reduces all damage taken raid-wide within 30 yards by 20% on a 2-minute cooldown. This effect comes along with Divine Sacrifice, which will redirect your party's damage to you. If you don't have Divine Shield up, it's usually best to cancel Divine Sacrifice, but the Divine Guardian effect is still valuable, even without it. It's worth noting that using these spells is effectively one of the keys of a good Holy Paladin. You should look for places to use these spells and attempt to use them as much as possible. While they won't reflect on your healing meters, they will make healing easier and less people will die, which ultimately will result in you wiping on content less and successful raids. Finally, but certainly not least, are your mana management spells. Aside from your heals, these are arguably some of your most important spells. Many Holy Paladins complain of mana issues, and I'm quite certain that the majority of mana problems on Holy Paladins can be solved by simply using your mana management cooldowns better. Divine Plea is your most powerful tool for your mana pool. On a 1-minute cooldown timer, it can be used several times in a fight and restores 25% of your mana over 15 seconds each time. This is one of the biggest reasons why Intellect is such an important stat for Holy Paladins. The larger your mana pool, the more MP5 gained from Divine Plea. Divine Plea does come at a cost, however, a 50% reduction in healing throughput. This can be offset with abilities such as Avenging Wrath, which increases your healing by 30%. Use this if you're not about to bubble, and Divine Illumination if you have 2-piece tier 10. The best times to use Divine Plea are when healing is light or null, such as phase transitions or other points in the encounter where the fight lulls. Barring these instances, I use my Divine Plea at 80%, and then on cooldown after that, unless I know I'm about to go through a particularly intense period of heavy damage, and don't feel my offsets will be enough to make up for it. It's important to begin using it early if you want it. If you wait until you're almost out of mana, then Divine Plea will do you very little good. Divine Illumination is your other big mana pool cooldown. While it doesn't directly restore mana, it does cut the mana cost of spells in half for 15 seconds. This is a great tool when you're about to spam Holy Lights. It is made even greater by 2-piece T10, where it can be used in conjunction with Divine Plea to continue to spam heals and still watch your mana go up. There's no reason not to use the spell on cooldown, unless you're saving it for a particular point in the fight. Divine Favor is often overlooked, but since crits reduce the mana cost of your spells by 30%, using this spell on cooldown will not only ensure a big heal, it will ensure a mana efficient heal, which will help you in the long run. Ultimately, its impact is small, but if you find yourself running out of mana, then you may wish to consider this tool for its worth. Lastly, I'll mention Seal of Wisdom and Judgment of Wisdom. Judging on cooldown can restore a decent amount of mana at range. However, if it is safe for you to go into melee range, aka knockbacks, stuns, or increased damage from it, and if people won't die when you choose to melee a bit, the combination of these two spells can make an enormous impact on your mana. If you're absolutely out of mana, then you have no reason not to run up a melee boss for a few hits and gain mana back. Properly using Seal of Wisdom and Judgment procs is a sort of Holy Paladin mana secret. The good Holy Paladins know about it, but it isn't mentioned a lot of the time. That's it for spells. Use your spells properly, and you will be one of the better Holy Paladins out there. Simply spamming Flash of Light or Holy Light isn't enough. Learn the range of the tools at your disposal, and use them effectively. The written companion to this guide explains all the useful spells in more detail. Before you ever cast a heal, some of the most important decisions that you will make are in your choice of talents. After all, if you put most of your points in the Retribution and Protection tree, you won't make for a very sustainable healer. Even in the Holy Tree, some talents are better suited for PvP than our current topic, PvE healing, most specifically in a raid setting. And even among the talents that find use in PvE, many are highly situational and thus optional. These optional talents will be taken or left alone by you based upon your own healing style, your raid's needs, or particular situations you encounter, which might require a quick change to your spec. Not all of your points will be placed in just the Holy Tree either. There are useful healing talents in the Protection and Retribution trees, but as I will discuss later, the most efficient use of these talents comes from following specific paths and obtaining specific talents that are slightly further down the tree. Starting in the first tier of the Holy Tree, the only useful talent here is Spiritual Focus. Putting 5 points in this reduces the pushback on Flash of Light and Holy Light by 70% when Concentration Aura is active. This adds on to the effect of Concentration Aura already gives, which allows Holy Paladins to cast their main heals without worrying about increased cast time from taking damage. The second tier provides for us 2 useful talents which are both must-haves for Holy Paladins. Healing Light will increase the effectiveness of all your healing spells by 12% for a 3-point investment. This is a very good talent, and there's absolutely no reason not to put points into it. Additionally, Divine Intellect is also very important. As we'll discuss later, Intellect is the largest stat for most Paladins, and still very valuable for Holy Paladins who may not consider it their primary stat. They will need to max out both of these talents in order to progress down the tree. Unyielding Faith is a PvP talent, and thus not very useful.